this banner of love. When I'm in fear, there is love. Now I let it lead me. When I'm in lack, there is abundance. Now I let it feed me. When I'm in turmoil, there is peace. Now I let it soothe me. When I'm confused, there is wisdom. Now I let it move me. A glorious standard is flying above. As for me, I rest under this banner of love. When I'm in fear, there is love. Now I let it lead me. When I'm in lack, there is abundance. Now I let it feed me. When I'm in turmoil, there is peace. Now I let it soothe me. When I'm confused, there is wisdom. Now I let it move me. A glorious standard is flying above. As for me, I rest under this banner of a glorious standard is flying above. As for me, I rest under this banner of
Okay, I love that song. It just makes me think of everything that's going on right now in our world. This is Beverly Pryor, and I'm the minister at Unity of the Hill Country in Kerrville, Texas, where we behold the Christ in each and every one of you. The banner of love, that's what I see when I see all the protests. I see a banner of love. So let's just close our eyes and take that thought, that banner of love, even though sometimes it may look like something else, oftentimes love does. So let's just take this thought into a moment of prayer. Let's take a deep breath together and just release that breath. The breath lets us drop into this moment. Together we open our hearts in gratitude. We appreciate everything about this beautiful day, this moment to come together, all the various ways that we have to connect with one another in these interesting times. We just fall into this moment. We bring with us our banner of love, that love coming from our heart out into the world. We know who we are. We are love. We are compassion. We are joy. We are peace. For all these beautiful gifts and so much more, and so many more gifts, we just simply say thank you. Thank you, thank you. And so it is. Our opening statement, which is also the first of the 5 basic unity principles. We say this every week when we're together, and hopefully you're saying it, even though I can't hear everybody at this point in the time that we share together on Sunday morning, maybe you're saying it home. Because saying it out loud has a power of hearing your own voice along with my own. So together, let's say there's only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God, the good, the omnipotent. Just a few announcements. They don't change all that much these days because, well, we just don't have that many things going on. We don't have our campus open yet, but we're thinking about it very soon. We're planning. And thank you all for everyone who has returned the surveys. That would have been a good announcement to put on here. The surveys are due tomorrow, but whenever you can get them in, if you receive one by mail, you can mail it in. You could call Mandy at the office with your input. You can drop it by. There are all kinds of ways to give. Some people are just taking a picture of their response. They got the survey in the mail, they answer it on the paper, and then they clicked take a picture and they emailed that or texted that in. So there's all kinds of ways to give your input. Your input is really important to us. We want to know what you're thinking. We're in service to you and this community, and it's really important. So if you didn't get the survey, we also send it by email. And we can also send it to you individually if you're listening now and you want to be a part of giving your feedback. So that's due tomorrow, but if you are a few days late, we'll still add it in probably through the end of the week as we're making decisions to move forward. The board meeting is on Wednesday, so we'll probably discuss the feedback at that point. So that may be the last opportunity to have much of an impact, but we always want to know what you're thinking and what's on your heart and on your mind. Patsy Sherman is still hosting Lost Christianities. This is one of the great courses that she is sharing virtually via Zoom, and you can find the connection on our calendar. And also Mandy is sending out a message each week to remind you of how to participate. You can find recordings for all of our past since we started going online on YouTube and on our website, and on Facebook you find our Sunday gatherings. So lots of ways to stay connected, to stay engaged with the Unity message, and to communicate, because you can email us, you can inbox us on Facebook, you can make comments on YouTube. We look at all these things to gather your input and feedback and take the pulse of how we're doing, even though we're not face to face in this moment. This is the closest we can be right now. But hopefully soon we'll find ways to be able to come together and look one another in the eye. So our special music today is Harold Payne, and we've been so blessed in this virtual world. That's one advantage of going virtual, is that we've been able to bring in all of these amazing posse artists. That's positive music. It's part of the posse music phenomena, and we have an annual festival, which of course had to be moved out to next year. But Harold Payne is a multi-platinum and Posse Award-winning songwriter whose songs have been recorded by, get this, Rod Stewart, Patti LaBelle. He's a longtime collaborator with Bobby Womack, who's also recorded his music, and literally so many, from Peter, Paul, and Mary to Snoop Dogg. So he's very creative and spontaneous and has so much fun with singing and sharing. And I know that you're going to be thrilled and you're really going to love Harold Payne today. He's been performing in New Thought communities since 2001. So he knows what we like, and he's going to give it to us today. So you'll look forward to hearing Harold twice in the upcoming hour. So at this moment, let's just get centered in. Wherever you are, just get comfortable and let's close our eyes together. And you know that you can call silent unity. not 24 hours a day right now. Maybe that'll come back soon, but you've got from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Central and 3 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. Here are the numbers on the screen. You can even call internationally. You can still submit prayer requests to us online at unityhillcountry.org, but you can also go straight to Unity Worldwide at unity.org/prayer. There you can call, you can write in, you can send by email, you can submit online. There's so many ways to put your prayer request out into the world. And it's important to do this in times of uncertainty where there's anxiety and frustration and confusion going on. It's really important to daily stay tuned in and get your prayer on. Stay connected in prayer and acknowledge the power of prayer working in your life. If you submit to us here locally, we pray over your prayer requests and then we send them on to Unity Village where they're prayed over for 30 days. But do yourself a favor. If something's on your mind, pick up the phone and call Silent Unity. It's beautiful. They're praying all day long. They're in that prayer consciousness and they're waiting to receive your call. But you see our photo here of our sweet prayer chest that we have on campus. And let's bring our attention to the prayers that we're submitting online and also in mind. And at this moment, if you have a prayer for yourself or for another that you would like to add in, just send it in now, knowing that it will be included in consciousness. Together, let's take a deep breath in and release. The breath connects us mind, body, and spirit, and connects us one with another. It is the consciousness from which we pray that makes all the difference. It doesn't matter if your prayer is for relationship or finances or wellness or job security or whatever the situation is. There's no degree of prayer. There's none too great or too small to bring to the consciousness of the absolute good that we know as God. And in this moment, we hold and we claim, as Jesus, our way shower, taught us, we claim right now, in this moment, it is done. And we know this is truth. This is absolute truth on every level. And we simply say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. The mission and vision statement for Unity of the Hill Country in Kerrville, Texas is to live consciously celebrating the divine potential in all. This is what we do every day of our lives. We live consciously, mindfully, and we see this divine potential. We see it expressed even when sometimes it doesn't seem like that's what we're seeing. We know this truth of absolute good. So today, our daily word reader is going to be Miss Mandy Scott. Mandy?
Today's daily word is divine order. Divine order is always unfolding in my life and in the world. As spring ripens into summer each year, new leaves transform bare trees to canopies of green. Tiny seedlings grow into sturdy plants and decorate the landscape with an array of colorful blossoms. I marvel at the divine order demonstrated as the earth renews itself. I recognize even as the earth appeared barren in wintertime, new life was preparing to spring forth. I notice this pattern in my life. I may be demonstrating visible growth in my life, or like the earth in winter, it may seem that my life is stagnant and barren. I remember that as the seasons of nature change, so do the seasons of my life. Even when it is not apparent to me, I know that divine order is always unfolding in my life and in the world. The earth produces of itself. First the stalk, then the head, then the full grain in the head. From Mark 4:28.
Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. So if anyone's interested in reading Daily Word on Sunday, for those of you who join us regularly, I'm usually calling out to people to see who's coming on, but you can also call in to the office and let Mandy know that you would like to be a Daily Word reader. We used to have a sign-up sheet there by the front door, which is a little hard to get to these days when the building is closed. So just call in and let us know that you would like to participate. It's easy. All you have to do is we'll bring you online and just read like Mandy did. And we will provide, even if you don't have a subscription, we will provide you a copy of the Daily Word for the day. And we would enjoy your participation. So now I've given you the introduction to Harold Payne, and I'm just so thrilled to be able to give you this time in our service to hear his amazing music. Harold?
Okay, this felt like one to do today for this moment. Little girl looked in her mother's eyes and asked a question that could only come from a child. Mommy, are there angels, and do they really fly? Will I know one when I see one? This was her reply. Oh, angels don't always wear wings. They live inside your hopes and prayers, and they dance around your dreams. They echo from the silence of quiet acts of kindness. Oh, angels don't always wear wings. There are little miracles that happen every day that never make the headlines, but make a difference anyway. Do you remember how your grandma dried your tears when you thought the world looked hopeless? Then she magically appeared. Oh, angels don't always wear wings. They live inside your hopes and prayers, and they dance around your dreams. They echo from the silence of quiet acts of kindness. Oh, angels don't always wear wings. There are moments in our lives when we may not realize that we're in the presence of God's messenger of love. Oh, angels don't always wear wings. They live inside your hopes and prayers, and they dance around your dreams. They echo from behind of quiet acts of compassion and kindness. Angels don't always wear wings. Angels don't always wear wings. Oh, angels don't always wear wings.
Thank you, Harold. That's beautiful. This is our applause for you, since most everyone's on mute. That was beautiful. What a perfect song selection for our topic today. So before we get into our topic, let's take a moment and spend some time in meditation, preparing our hearts and minds for the message. So wherever you are, if you'll just sit back and relax and allow your chair to just fully support the weight of your body. And take a deep breath in, pause at the top, and then just slowly let that breath release from your body. And take another deep breath in with a little pause, and slowly release. And notice as your shoulders begin to just drop in relaxation, and you may feel the weight of your body pressing a little more seriously, a little more presently against the chair. Relaxing into this moment, breathing in your own rhythm now. Just bring your attention to your breath. Notice as your breath moves in through your nostrils, it's just a little bit cool. When it returns, as it exits, it's a little bit warmer. It's very subtle. Breathing in, cooler. Breathing out, warmer. Our mind begins to quiet as we focus on the breath, letting go of the distractions. You might still have a thought that comes in, just let it float on by. Maybe sounds and distractions out the window or in another part of your home. Just be with it. During this time of meditation, as we relax more fully, you may even have some emotions that arise, some sensations in your body. Just accept them. Fully present and fully in this moment. As you breathe in, notice the breath may rise and fall in your chest. Breathing in, the breath is energizing, and breathing out, the breath is relaxing. With each energizing breath that you breathe in, allow your heart center to be filled with love. Just like a balloon expanding, the love grows and fills your heart center. You may even notice a sensation in your chest. The breath moving in and out, and this focus on that love filling your heart center. Breathing in, it's expanding, and now breathing out, allow that love to go out into the world. Breathing in, expanding. Breathing out, moving out into the world. You are love in this world. You can create and generate love anytime you choose. You are the presence and the power of love. Together in this moment, we are in service to love, the love that we are, individually and collectively. We have the power to generate and to put out into the world anytime, any moment, from the awareness of the very truth of our being. And we take this truth into a moment of silence. And together, let's take a deep breath in and release. With that breath, we bring our attention back to this moment and this time, and we bring back with us that energizing feeling of love, the love that we are, the love that we share, and the presence of truth. And for this and so much more, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. So today our topic is cultivating compassion. There have been a lot of books and articles and a lot of information out in the world over the decades, especially as Buddhism has taken hold in the United States, about cultivating compassion. Love, compassion, joy, all of these things are gifts that we have at our disposal at any time. Last week, we had a conversation about the protests and the things that are going on in the world, and we were brave to look at the fact that we all have implicit bias, that we have those things in our mind, those ideas, we've had experiences that have created subconscious stereotypes and beliefs and ways of thinking. We all have it. No one's free of it. But we can intentionally free ourselves a little more over time. It's awareness and mindfulness that brings that awareness, that helps us to face whatever it is that could be holding us back from knowing our true oneness with one another and expressing the absolute love that we are in this world. In Matthew 9, verses 35 and 36, Jesus, this is about Jesus. It says, "Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness. And when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without shepherd." He had compassion for the people who were coming to him, believing in their disease and believing in their sickness and their separation. And that's the highest thing we can possibly do. Yes, it's important to write to your congressman, to have your voice be heard, and if you're comfortable, to go out and be on the street and protest. Do whatever it is that's within your abilities and your comfort level, and maybe a little bit beyond your comfort level. You know, Jesus was a master teacher. So for him to have compassion, it was just his second nature. But for some of us, maybe it's not. And we need to cultivate a higher degree, a higher level, more skill in the area of compassion. I love this sign and many like it. I will never understand, but I stand. So I, as a Caucasian, can never fully understand. I can see, I can have empathy for, I can comprehend mentally, but I cannot fully understand the fear that mothers with dark skin who are my same age, who've had similar experiences to me, the fear that they have to live under all the time. I can't understand it. I can't understand it's also Pride Month. I can't understand the persecution that people in the LGBTQ community have dealt with. But I can stand with them in compassion. And if there's something blocking my compassion, my ability to be available to them with love, then it's my responsibility. As we talked about last week, you can take these tests. I gave you the links in the talk last week to go and take some tests that are available through Harvard University to uncover your implicit bias. Because you want to know if there's something that's holding you back from being one with every creature and every individual who you come in contact with, and even those that you never see, even the ones that you see on television. You want to know your oneness. And what's blocking it sometimes can be those implicit biases. But we also want to step forward and cultivate this radiant being, this truth of ourselves. The Buddha said, radiant, boundless love towards the entire world, above, below, and across, unhindered, without ill will, without enmity. Radiate boundless love. Radiate boundless love. That's our charge. That charge was not, it was given by Buddha, but it was also reiterated many times over by other teachers. The Dalai Lama says, this is my simple religion. There's no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart is our temple. The philosophy is kindness. Kindness and compassion go hand in hand. When you become more compassionate, you naturally become a kinder person. Your awareness raises to all the ways you're not kind when you're living in compassion. We have so many opportunities in our lifetime to examine ourselves. But as the Dalai Lama said, our own brain, our own heart is our temple. Where we live within, that's where we begin, not some other place to go. There's no other place to go. There's only within. And when we do our inner work, when we understand what's holding us back from keeping us from knowing that oneness, and then we commit ourselves to cultivating compassion and love and joy and kindness, then we're able to step into the fullness of our being. I came across this website called zenhabits.net, and it's a guide to cultivating compassion in your life with 7 practices by Leo Babauta. So we're going to go over them this week and next week because it's a lot to cover all 7 in 1 week. So he begins by recommending a morning ritual. And he quotes the Dalai Lama, "Today I am fortunate to have woken up. I am alive. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. I'm going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I'm going to have kind thoughts towards others. I'm not going to get angry or think badly about others. I'm going to benefit others as much as I can. Accept this as your own, or write something similar, and get up every day and begin your day with this morning ritual or one of your own creation. You may already have a morning ritual. For me, when I get up, before I do anything, besides take my dog out, of course, that has to be the number one thing, is let her out. But then I sit outside with her while she's noticing whatever's passed through in the yard and sniffing around. And I give her time while I read the daily word. And I read at least a couple of other inspirational pieces. It just depends on, I've got different ones I rotate in and out. But I give my time in those quiet early hours to my oneness. And sitting outside for me really works, even though it does irritate my sinuses. As Mandy can tell you, I've been kind of a frog throat lately. But what happens when you're outside in those early hours and the birds are so excited and little critters are running around and the frogs are still trying to go to their little hidey hole? I mean, you just get really connected with nature. But maybe you're not a person to sit outside. Maybe your allergies are worse than mine. Still take that time to dedicate to yourself, to get yourself centered first thing in the morning while the world's still a little bit quiet. And before you've done too many distracting things, don't wake up and get right on Facebook. Don't wake up and get right on the news. Don't flip everything on in the house. Give yourself time to ease into the world and take this commitment that the Dalai Lama is sharing with us here, or write something similar. You can make your own inner knowing knows what it is that your morning ritual needs to be. But if you haven't yet adopted something as your own morning time ritual, do that and add meditation in with it, because meditation helps us quiet the mind and quiet those subconscious voices. And the more that we're in meditation, the more it actually activates part of the brain that allows us to be in touch with more compassion, with those higher vibrations, with more love and peace and joy. Another practice that they recommend in this article is an empathy practice. Now, this could be, you have to watch yourself. I don't want you to go down a rabbit hole of getting all worked up and adopting the emotions that go with this. But what they're describing is, in the empathy practice, is to imagine that a loved one is suffering. I would imagine something, maybe not something they've been through or you've personally been through, because you can get all triggered and wrapped up in the emotions. This is not about that. This is about learning. Imagine that someone you love is suffering, and then something terrible has happened to him or her, and then try to imagine the pain that they're going through. I know recently someone I'm very close to lost their job, and it was a big shock. And for me, I can definitely relate, and I can imagine what they're going through. And I want to do what I can. You have to watch it if you have codependency tendencies here. We're not trying to fix them. We're not trying to take on their pain. We just want to imagine where their suffering is coming from in as much detail as possible. And then, try to move forward, imagining the suffering of others beyond those people. It's easier when you know someone and you really care about them, because you just naturally take on a little bit of their pain. That's the codependent part, but you can understand, especially if you can empathize because you've been there. But that happens easily with people we know well. But then we can expand it out, and that will help us gain more empathy, even though, as I said at the very beginning, even though we can't fully understand what someone else is going through, and what they're suffering from, it helps us to have more compassion, to at least try to bring ourselves into that moment and feel those feelings, because you can't imagine what it might be. If you've been through it yourself before, yes, it's easier. If you haven't been through it yourself before, you can imagine how it might feel. Don't stay in those feelings. You're not trying to own those feelings. Don't take them on for yourself. Don't carry them around. Set a time limit. Give yourself some half an hour or so to kind of be in that, so that you can develop that skill of empathy. But then leave it by the river. I've told you that adage before about the monks, the elder monk and the young monk that were going, and they came to a river, and there was a woman standing there, and the young monk says very piously to her, well, I would help you across the river, but I've taken a vow of celibacy, so you're on your own. And the older monk just walked over and smiled at her, picked her up, and carried her across the river. And that way she stayed dry in her beautiful gown. And they go walking on down the river, and the young monk is just seething. He's so angry. And finally, he just says to the older monk, he says, I can't believe you did that. And the older monk is saying, what do you mean? He says, I can't believe you picked up that woman. We have a vow of celibacy. What are you doing carrying this woman across the river? And the older monk just looked at him and said, I put her down 3 miles ago. You're the one that's still carrying her. So just remember in moments like that, even if it's something you have experienced, or if you're doing an empathy practice and you're being in the moment with someone, leave it by the river, leave it in that moment, and don't carry it around with you, and don't keep opening up that can and stirring it up again. Just know that you can feel those feelings, and feelings are meant to be temporary. And emotions are what create long term. And as we talked about last week and many weeks before, feelings come and go. You can choose a feeling, which creates your emotion. So you can choose a positive. You can have a certain feeling. For me, anxiety has been something I worked with my whole life, trying to understand and identify the feelings. But sometimes you can have a feeling in the pit of your stomach or in your solar plexus that just feels like an energy ball. It feels like something. You can name it anxiety, or you could turn it over and you can name it anticipation. So anxiety creates worry and fear and frustration. But if you call it anticipation, you can evoke hope and joy and positive feelings. So it's all about how you deal with the feelings that come up and how you can connect with. We're all connected, and sometimes we can feel, for me being empathic, I can feel all the feelings, and sometimes they're not even my own, and we have to be wise about identifying that and moving through it. Babies naturally are empathetic creatures. They can feel their parents' feelings. Even in the womb, they've discovered that the epigenetics, in the womb, they're picking up the vibrations, which makes sense because they're in liquid. And liquid, the vibrations move through liquid much easier than they do rocks and stones. And so the babies come into this world feeling all the feelings around them. Have you ever noticed in a nursery or a daycare, if one child gets upset, they all get upset? And this is not because they feel fear. It's because they feel the anxiety. They're like, oh, somebody's crying. I'm going to cry with them. But what will happen sometimes, and to many people, because there are many different ways that children are not cared for when they're young. If you have a narcissistic parent, or if you've had parents with addiction issues, you might have actually shut down your empathetic nature as part of your survival mechanism. Lots of children have this. It's a way to get through childhood because of the chaos and the intensity and not getting your feelings met in some of these situations, that children shut down their empathy. But as we become aware of these things, as we grow and become more aware of our spiritual nature, we can go back and cultivate and reclaim the empathy that was lost in our childhood. One practice for that is a commonalities practice, reflecting on the commonalities you have with every other human being and just ignoring the differences. We've talked about this whole, our mind's habit in the last few weeks, we talked about the mind's habit to go to the negative. You know, it came from our reptilian brain, that survival mechanism where we're looking for danger around us. And so we have a tendency to look to the negative. But what if we take in our mindfulness practice and we consciously choose to let those differences, those things that we see as negative, the differences, how someone is not like us, and just let that go and focus on how someone individually and collectively is more like us than different from us. It's called just like me. So you might say, just like me, this person is seeking happiness in his or her life. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering. And just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Who hasn't, right? Just like me, they've suffered. Just like me, they want the same things. Just like me, this person is seeking to fill his or her needs. And sometimes that comes in a way that's not skillful and maybe even turns to criminal. But if you look at their seeking to fulfill their needs, it takes it to another level. You can have compassion. Doesn't mean that it's overlooking or making it okay to do things that are disrespectful or criminal, but to understand that there's a need trying to get met. And just like me, this person is learning about life. So even I've had conversations with a lot of different people who have empathic abilities like I do, and they feel a lot of things. And one thing I always try to point out to my fellow empaths is people don't know that you have, that you take on all these feelings and that you're more sensitive to words or tone of voice or whatever. And just like me, they're learning about life. No one intentionally hurts another person. We might learn some poor behaviors, but once we become aware, once we start cultivating our mindfulness, we can learn and we can see ourselves and we can make different choices that are more kind and loving and compassionate. That's what the whole cultivating compassion practice is all about. And then his 7th step is the evening routine, but because we've only covered 3 of them, I'm going to bring you to the evening routine to kind of close out this idea. But in the evening, before you go to bed, again, take some time to get still and think about the people you've met and talked to and how you treated each other, not just how they treated you, because somebody might have said something, they might have been in a hurry or distracted or emotionally out of balance and said something that bothered you. Don't just focus on that. Think about how you were in return, because that's what you have responsibility for. You're not responsible for the way other people are behaving. I know at times I've been short with people or distracted or had things on my mind, and I wasn't my best person. And I even just recently I did go back to someone and say, when you mentioned this to me, I responded this way. And I wish I had chosen in the moment to just listen to what you were saying. And they were like, oh, I don't even remember saying it. But it was bothering me because I just responded to what they said rather than hearing what they said. And I have to take responsibility for that. And the person appreciated the apology. It was just me taking accountability for how I show up in the world. But think about your goals that you've stated in the morning to act with compassion towards others. How have you practiced that? What opportunities did you have that you took? And what opportunities did you have that you passed over and didn't quite acknowledge? Just give yourself a little summary of how well you did and how could you do better? And what did you learn from your experiences throughout the day? It's a very worthwhile practice to consciously cultivate compassion as a part of who you are in this world. You are a compassionate being. But as I mentioned, you might have shut some of it off when you were basically in survival mode, getting through life. I know my corporate career certainly caused me to have to kind of buckle down and get through some things. You couldn't always be compassionate. You had to look at certain goals and objectives. But in your life, especially now that we're spending more time at home and less busyness out in the world, we have time to do these morning routines and evening routines and to commit ourselves to becoming more mindful and more compassionate in the world. I love this sign that was held up at one of the Black Lives Matters movement. Love your neighbor, your Black, brown, immigrant, disabled, religiously different, LGBTQ, fully human neighbor. And it takes us back to the teachings of Jesus. When asked by the Pharisees, what is the greatest commandment? In Matthew 22:37, Jesus said, he said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And then he goes on in 39 and 40 and he says, and the second is like this. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and all the prophets. So your neighbor is not just the person who lives on either side of you, wherever you dwell. Your neighbor is every person who lives on planet Earth along with you in this time. We hear a lot these days about these uncertain times. Uncertain because we don't know when we'll find a vaccine or a treatment for this virus. Uncertain because we don't know exactly what is going to come out of all of this energy around the movement that has been going on and being reignited and still not being properly addressed. We don't know what will come out of it, but we can hold compassion for those people who are struggling, who are on both sides of it. You know, we have compassion for the families and the individuals who've been harmed. We also have compassion for the misguided choices people make sometimes in how they do their job. Sometimes decisions are made in a moment and they're not mindful. And the thing we have to do now is to hold that justice for all sides is upheld. And this is another version of that similar sign being held by someone who is, you see most of the people in this image right here are not African American, but they're standing with the Black Lives Matter movement. I understand that I will never understand, however I stand. And they have a heart. They stand in love. They stand with truth. They stand with equanimity and justice. And we can't turn a blind eye just because it's not our individual personal experience. We can't look the other way. It's just not possible any longer. It is happening, it's evolving, and in our consciousness, we need to know and hold that love will prevail. Another quote by Buddha, hatred is never appeased by hatred in the world. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. So while people are shouting and creating a lot of noise in the protest, what I feel is not that it's coming from hatred, it's coming from compassion, it's coming from a desire to be heard. He goes on to say, by non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is law eternal. By non-hatred alone, by love, by compassion, by joy, by opening our heart, filling it with love and putting it out into the world. That's the only way that we will appease and we will address. And it's not just love for one side or the other. It's love equally across the board. loving and having compassion for people who've made decisions that have harmed others, knowing that truth will prevail and their hearts will open and they will see at some point that they also are love. And their jobs can be done with love, and the responses can be done in love, and the presence of love will prevail. So your weekly practice is to expand your empathy. And you may already be a pretty empathic person, but empathy is a choice. So be mindful. Adopt these practices. Choose which one you want to play with this week. Morning ritual, evening ritual, and then connecting in empathy or finding commonalities. Just choose something as your practice this week and be intentional. Know that you can open your heart wider and wider and wider. And whether it's online, over the phone, or just a quick trip to the grocery store, act from empathy every chance you get. Expand your empathy. Cultivate a greater empathy within yourself, and it will expand into the world. We've talked over and over about the ripple effect. It will expand into the world, and that's what you have charge for, and you have responsibility for this sacred temple in which you live, the mind and the body and the spirit that's expressing through it. And I know you can do it because you are love. And I love you. Namaste. And now we're going to have more music by Harold Payne. I'm excited to hear what else he has to share with us. Harold?
Okay, well, I've been vigorously taking notes, and I've decided to create a song based upon your talk right here in the moment.
I love it.
I've prepared for spontaneity here. Okay. I radiate boundless love. I radiate boundless love. With kindness and compassion, every thought and action, I will radiate boundless love. Where we live within is where we begin. When we start with gratitude and a positive attitude, it feels like our backs with the wind. I won't waste a day, I'll give love away every chance I get, because I radiate boundless love. I radiate boundless love. With kindness and compassion, in every thought and action, I will radiate boundless love. What's holding me back from being one with all? The biases that block me, I won't let them stop me from learning to answer love's call. I will never understand, but I will do my best to stand wherever I can. And I will radiate boundless love. Radiate boundless love. With kindness and compassion, every thought and every action, I will radiate boundless love. With empathy, I will reach out and rise up from old beliefs and doubt. We can't turn our backs and look away. I will expand with empathy in everything I do and say. I radiate boundless love. I radiate boundless love. With kindness and compassion in every thought and every action, I will radiate boundless love every day. I radiate boundless love.
That was amazing. I can't believe you just wrote that. It's just amazing. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Are you complete?
I'll do another one
If you want.
if you'd like.
Sure.
This is a new one. I can't say a new one after that because that's in a moment. But this is a song I just wrote this last week with my friend Claudia Carawan from Virginia, and it seems to be appropriate. This is the moment, right here and now, to lay down our burdens and come together somehow. It might not be easy to cross this divide. Lord knows we've got to try. Let love be our witness as we stand in forgiveness. We all want to find common ground. We need each other. We need each other now more than ever before. We need each other. We need each other. May peace in our hearts be restored. I've had a vision deep in my soul where the rivers of compassion rise up and overflow and wash away the enmity with kindness and empathy. And no one can do it alone. We need each other. We need each other now more than ever before. We need each other. We need each other. May peace in our hearts be restored. The world is not perfect, but the struggle is worth it. And our dreams can still somehow come true. We need each other. We need each other now more than ever before. We need each other. We need each other. May peace in our hearts be restored. We need each other now more than ever before.
Thank you, Harold. That was amazing. That was a beautiful way to close out our morning together. So I just want to mention to you how much we all appreciate the offerings and the tithes that you've been sending in and giving online. And I just want to express our gratitude for your continued support. And we will be coming back together as soon as possible. Our offertory prayer for these blessings and for these offerings is divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I send it forth with my blessings and my love. And we close with the prayer protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is, and all is well. And we'll see you next week virtually. Invite your friends. And now we're going to open up the lines, and we'll have a little community time. Mandy, did you unmute everybody? Put us on gallery view so we can see. People
Yep,
can
I
say hello to
just-
Harold.
Yep, I'm unmuting now.
Hi, Danny and Sue.
Hi, Beverly.
Mandy and Dave. Hi, Alan and Paul. Hetty.
Thank you for having me.
Harold, that was just amazing. That was
Yeah.
just so your song was just, it sounded like you had worked on it. I mean, just to do it in the moment, it's so perfect like that.
I was rushing to come up with some of those rhymes at the last minute, you know.
Well, it was beautiful. It was perfect.
You did such a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It helps to be inspired.
Well, thanks so
And I
much.
will.
So, Beverly.
Hey, Mandy. Other
I'll
Mandy.
let you guys connect with each other.
All
Thank you
right.
so
Thanks,
much.
Harold. Thanks for being with us.
All
We
right.
hope you'll come back and spend some time with us again.
Me too. Thank you.